pulled early from the team's past 2 games. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
It's time for the fall haul at Northern Tool and Equipment. Get your hands on tough tools at prices that are tough to ignore. Got plans? Cancel them. Trucks in the shop? Borrow someone else's. Don't like saving money? Right. So head to the fall haul at Northern Tool. Back up the truck for the season's biggest event and save on generators, power tools, trailers, and more. Shop in-store or at northerntool.com. We're made for this.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you on a wild and crazy Thursday edition. Thursdays are always wild and crazy as we welcome in our betting insider and pal Chelsea Messenger, as well as our buddy Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider. But this Thursday, we've got some big news out of Lawrence to react to yesterday. We've got the Chiefs playing later tonight. We've got Tommy's Braves back against the wall a little bit in the postseason. We have a ton to get to. The IHOP hotline is open for you, 869-1240. Always that number for you to reach us on the IHOP hotline, by the way. And that IHOP hotline, how about IHOP's new Nashville hot chicken and waffles? Belgian waffles topped with 4 crispy chicken strips tossed in spicy Nashville hot sauce. We appreciate IHOP for bringing us the hotline, and it is available to you, 869-1240, as is our chat section of our video streams, which you can find on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. You can also reach us on Twitter, and we will be happy to communicate with you. It was a lot of communicating yesterday with KU. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Busy day today, getting ready for Thursday night football and primetime tonight with the Chiefs. As you mentioned, all the penalties came down on Kansas basketball yesterday afternoon. I know we'll get on all of that and just a lot to talk about today on the show.
It is let's start there. So Chiefs fans, hang with us. We'll hit on that a little bit here in our visit with Chelsea Messenger as well. But let's get into the KU situation, Tommy. So I thought it was interesting yesterday. There were 2 things that happened. One, we got the IARP ruling, no postseason ban, but there were penalties. And then along with that, we get an affidavit on the Arterio Morris situation, furthering by the fact that he is now enrolled at Garden City Community. So we got to sort of segment this out and take it piece by piece. We'll start with the IARP ruling. That came down, and quickly the narrative from like Sports Illustrated and a lot of the national people was like, oh, here we go again. KU gets nothing in this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I go through, and then some of the details start coming out. And I'm like, well, no, KU didn't not get anything. They definitely got something. In fact, I think they got the second most severe penalty they could have gotten. And so it was weird. And like, so in, excuse me, in our newsroom yesterday, like what was coming down from wire copy and all this stuff is like, KU avoids serious punishment. KU, and I'm like, that's not the case. Like KU got dinged here. And I know we can have some fun with vacating 15 wins, and it doesn't mean anything in the present in reality. Like, yes, they avoided the really bad situation that we didn't think was going to come down anyway. But, giving up 15 wins and falling behind Kentucky on the all-time wins list and snapping the NCAA tournament streak and all of these things, like, that's not nothing, Tommy. Like, they did get something here, but what they do get to say is what they've said all along. Yeah, maybe it happened. We didn't know it happened. The panel agreed with them on that. So I think that was a very important win for KU. And the other thing they get to say is, this is what we thought would happen. This is why we self-impose those penalties, which the IARP accepted, right? KU played this as well as you could play it, all things considered. But like they didn't not get anything. They definitely got penalized here.
The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that the 15 wins that were vacated were simply because they were games that the IARP and the NCAA ruled that Silvio De Sousa was not eligible to
Correct.
play in. That was the reason why. So, like, and I know that there are connections with that particular player and the whole Adidas scandal, but those 15 wins that were vacated and the Final Four appearance and all of that, that was directly connected to Silvio De Sousa and his ineligibility.
Correct.
Like, full stop. Simply put, right there. Like, those 15 wins being vacated, that was not a penalty because of like alleged improprieties with Adidas and money coming in and Bill Self knowing about it. It was simply Silvio De Sousa, according to the panel and the NCAA, not being eligible to play in those games. The funny thing about it, though, keep in mind, is that the NCAA cleared Silvio De Sousa not once, not twice, but 3 times to be eligible to play for the University of Kansas men's basketball team. And, so take that as, however you want. But the bottom line is that those wins that are vacated, sure, like in the record books, they'll be crossed out and a banner more than likely has to be pulled down.
It
But
does.
that's not reality. I mean, that's not reality, right? I mean, like, those are things that are going to happen. Those are penalties, but it's not like you can go back and you can erase everybody's memory that those things happened.
No.
So it is what it is.
And
again, like as we talked about yesterday, as long as the current players didn't get any kind of punishment, they had nothing to do with this situation. And the landscape is totally different. That's a win in my book.
It was a mess to get here. It was a long and winding. You heard some of Bill Self in Ted the Sport Heads update there. Like, they're just ready to be done with it. They knew they had a good feeling of what was going to happen. The panel did accept, and it would be interesting to see if they did offer any suspensions to Bill Self and Townsend and the recruiting restrictions that KU already put in place itself. We don't know that because they just sort of accepted those, right? They backed off the other thing. They backed off the level 1 infraction nature of this, which was also, I think, a moral win for KU. The thing that will sting, I think, for the program are streaks being snapped, right? Because now you can't go out and publicly boast these streaks. And the fact that you're now 7 games behind Kentucky on that all-time wins list. I think those things do matter to fans. Look, KU fans can say like, oh, we don't care about anything other than the future. I agree. I mean, that's the way I feel about it, but I'm not a KU alumni. I'm not a KU running through my veins. Like, all I wanted out of this was to not punish the current players and to not be ridiculous and naive of the reality of, college athletics. But it does suck a little bit, I think, for KU fans to not be able to say we're the winningest program and to not say we've been, to not have the NCAA tournament streak anymore. And all of those things, that have been special are all of a sudden not special. Like, they're special. And that's not fun. I saw a good joke yesterday. Bill Self's winning percentage actually goes up overall, vacated, because Silvio De Sousa also had 5 losses there.
Yeah.
So the winning percentage with Silvio De Sousa was actually lower than Bill Self's career record. So his winning percentage will go up. You don't have to remember now that Villanova game anymore. Like, there's a lot of fun that we can have with this. And trust me, we will, because again, like, to me, and I'm not, this isn't like none of this has been that big a deal to me anyway, because I think everybody's being naive here. Like, everybody's being naive. Really? Like, you needed the FBI to investigate college basketball to know players were getting paid? Really? No. Nobody needed that. Everybody already knows that. So, like, this whole thing has all just been a big, show with smoke and lights and look at all of this. Like, nobody cares. And now we really don't, because we have the NIL, and all of this stuff would have been not apples to apples again, but we don't have to deal with this stuff anymore, which is just all this does now 6 years later is make me shake my head at the fact that it took us this long to at least even get to the point we're at now.
Well, and think back to 6 years ago when this whole thing started, not just with Kansas, but in college basketball in general. And you had the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York coming out and talking about widespread corruption. And there were people that were going to federal prison over this. And then you had coaches like Will Wade at LSU and Sean Miller at Arizona and Rick Pitino at Louisville lose their jobs ultimately. Assistant coaches getting caught up in all of this. I mean, it was a big time, a lot of smoke and mirrors, just a big time spectacle 6 years ago about all of this. And the reason why, a huge reason why the University of Kansas came out of this really smelling pretty good at the end of the day is because they did decide to take it, and it was agreed to take it to that independent panel, which obviously doesn't exist anymore as of today. But, I was reading about some of the inner workings of the way that this committee operates. And really, it's kind of a quasi court of law. Like, it's not actually a legally binding court of law, but it's lawyers and attorneys, and they're coming together. They're presenting arguments where with the NCAA, if you went to the committee on infractions with the NCAA, that's not operated in that kind of same way. It's more operated based on like, this is what the NCAA has found with an investigation. The school has no power. The NCAA is going to rule with an iron fist. There's really no trial. There's really no, any kind of argument to be made. It's basically at the will of the NCAA and what they want to do. This committee was supposed to be operating in a way that was more in the vein of like a court of law, basically. And so, knowing that and knowing that there was actually a federal trial that was found in an FBI investigation that found that the University of Kansas were victims of Adidas, all of those arguments can then be put in front of the committee. And so I think that helped them kind of get through this relatively unscathed. And you know what, at the end of the day, like, I'm with you, like it's done. It's over with. You can turn a corner on it. The university doesn't have to really worry about it anymore. And honestly, 15 wins, you fall back behind Kentucky officially in the all-time win list. Okay. At some point they'll probably get it back. Bill Self will continue to win games. I think I read that he was only a handful of games away from passing Fog Allen for the all-time winningest coach at KU, and now he's a little bit further back from that. He'll get there. It'll take him a few more games. Like, don't worry about it. Like, really, I slept pretty well last night knowing that we're not talking about a postseason ban, moving forward. And by the way, I read this too, and I don't think that people really fully appreciate the level of punishment that level 1 violations can bring down on a school. One level 1 violation can result in a 2 to 4 year postseason ban. One level 1 violation. They were charged with 5 level 1 violations. They were looking at up to 20 years in a postseason ban. That was never going to happen, but I don't think people really appreciate the level of charges that were levied against KU, and the fact that they were able to get out of this with probation, a financial penalty that they have to pay, and then basically the committee agreeing with the self-imposed sanctions. That's pretty remarkable for KU.
Well, it is. It was a nice job. Look, there's two parts to it. And I think that, in fairness to the entire situation, they avoided the bad stuff, right? Like, they did, and they handled it in a really good way. Like, as far as like navigating it, when you're just looking at it, like not from just from an observation standpoint, like KU played this situation out about as well as you could. However, they didn't not get anything. They were punished here, right? Like, so let's just understand both of those things and hopefully continue to make fun of it, right? And know that now it doesn't mess with anything going forward, which again, like the hilarity of the situation is if like Oklahoma State, for instance, who put out a statement, was like, we're glad to see this happen we know it's too late for us, but it's still good to see the right thing happen. Like, don't punish current players for past transgressions. Like, it doesn't make any sense, which is always why like this whole process has been somewhat nonsensical. Like, if you're the NCAA and you want to be this enforcement agency, you got to be able to rule quickly. And, if you can't for legal reasons, then there's a problem with the system in the first place. So that's all moving forward. Now we don't have to worry about as much of that stuff anymore. We can just, players again, like, it's so funny to me that anybody is willing to, and look, maybe there are people that really do think that forever college athletics at this level was some like amateur
Untainted.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe there are, but like when I'm seeing that and I'm seeing like players were getting paid by an apparel company. Look at all these schools. Look at all these schools. Oh my God, guys, like can you believe that? Come on now.
Yeah,
Like
I can
I
believe
went
that.
to a Division II school where I know guys were getting handshake money. Like, get out of here with all that. Like, let's be real and do it better, right?
Mhm.
And it is a complicated process, as we know now, through NIL and the transfer portal to get it right. But at least we're now trying to get it right. And we don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. And if there are bad actors, now they're really bad actors. Now it's because they're taking
Right.
advantage of kids. Now it's because, they're not trying to help kids get paid. They're trying to, manipulate and take advantage and, basically defraud people. Now we can really go after the bad actors. And in the meantime, that's what these athletes are worth, obviously. So great, let's facilitate it. And I thought that some of the stuff, we talked to Kevin Saul just briefly about it yesterday, and it is a conversation we got to have because, some of the proposals, they're not all to limit this stuff, which is what I always fear with the NIL. It's more about schools being more directly involved. I think schools being directly involved does help take some of this away because you've got adults more trained in that world knowing like, yeah, that's real and that's not. And we've heard Saul and others talk about this. Kids are getting lied to right and left right now.
Yeah.
Oh, come play here and you'll get this. And then they just don't get it. Right. Like, it's
Right.
like, no. We don't want that either. If you facilitate this thing, teach kids how to pay their taxes, right? And
There's got to be some guardrails. There's got to be some
Absolutely.
guardrails in this.
Now, those
Totally
guardrails
agree.
can't be, and I'll contend this until the day I die. The guardrails can't be, we got to limit what athletes can earn. That's not a guardrail. No, that's not a guardrail.
No, it's more on the
that's-
other side. It's more making sure
Right.
the people that are making those promises are
Correct.
fulfilling
Deliver.
them, in the appropriate way. And you know what? There was a lot of hand wringing yesterday and just a lot of like old men yelling at clouds about how Kansas escaped, from this without penalties and whatever. And you know what? I wholeheartedly believe, and you might call me a KU apologist, and that's fine. This is not about Kansas, this whole thing. If you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at the NCAA and be mad at this independent panel for taking more than half a decade to finally rule on this. Like, be mad at them about this. And it was another reminder to me about how utterly ineffective the NCAA is in general and just how it's not. And I've said this before on the show, and you've kind of pushed back on it, and I understand why. I feel like in the world, in the landscape today, in college athletics in 2023, the NCAA is absolutely irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. I'm not saying they can't make themselves relevant again, but man, like they are in an NIL world and a transfer portal world and all of that. Like they're basically a lobbying arm at this point. That's basically what they do. And they're irrelevant in the way that things are evolving in college athletics. There has to be major reform with the NCAA in general. And I don't know if that means a new governing body, if that means that the member schools all come together and say, look, we can do this ourselves, or I don't know exactly what that means in the future. But this whole spectacle from the last 6+ years with not just Kansas, but all of the schools involved in it, it's been a disaster basically in the way that this has all gone down. And it shows me how ineffective the NCAA is. And by the way, we got a note on Twitter from Chris, and his question was, how is it remotely fair to Oklahoma State and its players like Cade Cunningham, who received postseason bans after cooperating with the NCAA? It's not. And that just shows you exactly how ineffective the NCAA is. When the Cowboys decided they wanted to cooperate with the NCAA and they got a postseason ban, it's not fair to Cade Cunningham. It's not fair to Mike Boynton. It's not fair to those players. And it's just another example of how irrelevant the NCAA has become.
The second that happened is when this all blew up. And we're like, Oklahoma State got what? And everybody else who's just been defiant is like, they're going to get off. That's exactly right. And that's what Oklahoma State said as much yesterday, by the way, in what they put out there. Like, they're glad that the right thing happened here, but it is too bad that it was too late for them. And we all suffered there because Cade Cunningham didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament. Your point on the NCAA is fine about not being, they're not relevant as an enforcement agency, right? They can't handle that clearly, but they're necessary because of all the planning and facilitating needed for all the events and things that happen. And enforcement is not their strong point. There does have to be some level of compliance, right? And schools take on some of that burden, but you do have to have somebody,
some kind of
doing
governing
that.
body. I'm not sure it's the
Right.
NCAA in
Well,
its current
and
form.
what I do think the NCAA does a good job of is event planning, right? Their events are good. I think sometimes they're a little too big brother strict, but they've got billion-dollar contracts to maintain. So I get the necessity of it. But yeah, as an enforcement agency, they've never been it because they're not consistent and they take too long. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like if you can't, you got to be able to do those things, but it's all changing. It's again, like I think the reason everybody's so callous to this is it's like nobody, if you cared about this, if you were one of the small group of people that actually cared about this when it happened, you certainly don't 6 years later. Like it's just like, okay, cool. No postseason ban. Cool. Now, some of the records getting vacated and stuff that does stink, I think, for KU fans. But they're going to get ranked number 1 here in like real soon. And again, like nobody's going to think otherwise of it. So that's everything that happened yesterday before Arterio Morris. Real quick, Tommy, we'll spend a couple of minutes on this before we shift gears to Chelsea Messenger. So we also get the affidavit yesterday on Arterio Morris and his situation on campus that got him kicked off the team, accused of rape. One charge, very serious charges. You can read the affidavit if you want to. It's uncomfortable to say the least. So that comes out on the same day. He's off the team. He's a former player. It's not like, I'm not a legal scholar, Tommy, and I sometimes have to really lean on other people in our newsroom when these comes out. But an affidavit coming out basically is just the details from the arrest that happened. So nothing new happened. We just know more about what happened. So you can read that. It's not good. It makes that's the bigger black eye yesterday for KU by far is the fact that they put themselves in the situation with him. Now he hasn't been convicted of anything, and that is important, right? He also is enrolled now at Garden City Community College. And so if you thought KU was boneheaded for bringing him on campus, and certainly they have a black eye, again, whether he's convicted or not, just because the situation's there after the past he's already come in with. He's not on the basketball team that we know of yesterday, but we did finally get confirmed that he is enrolled there. We'll see if he's on the basketball team. If he's on the basketball team right now, when he's got a court date coming up, like real quick on this other situation, like before he even has his court date, that's a problem. And Garden City got caught yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me a lot of times of, I don't know if you watched Last Chance U when it was on Netflix. Of course, dealing with junior colleges, and there were a couple of seasons at Independence Community College, and there were players that were on these different teams that they profiled and featured on this show that were currently in the middle of legal trouble. I'm not sure that they really ever had anybody that had a situation quite like Arterio Morris, from what I can remember. But that was a fairly common thing where you had players that had gotten kicked off a major program, either in football or basketball.
Like
then they go to a community college. Right.
2 weeks after they're arrested.
The timing of it is a little bit. But I guess the thing is that, let's just say he's not on the basketball team. Can somebody that's been accused of a crime enroll in college just in general? I don't know the answer to that.
I asked that question to smarter people than me yesterday, and I think the answer is you can always say no, but I don't know the answer to that question.
It's
accused of a crime, and like you put yourself, if again,
it's a bad look.
If he ends up on that basketball roster before his court date, come on now.
Yeah, it's a bad look. And you know what? I told you this yesterday. The affidavit dropped like less than an hour before the IARP penalties came out for Kansas. I'm not a conspiracy guy.
No. So an affidavit doesn't drop like that. Somebody requested it and got it. That's what happened. It's not
the timing of it. Coming out an hour before,
the timing,
but it kind of drowned it. It was kind of drowned out from
it was. I don't
all the IARP stuff.
So somebody requests that stuff and then they get it. Like The one thing in there that caught my eye is that, and this can happen, is that it was requested by the prosecutor basically that this be a sealed affidavit. It's high profile, but we get redacted affidavits on some pretty gnarly things all the time. That to me was the curious part. Like, what are we doing here?
And the other thing, the final thing I want to say on it is that there have been questions from local media up in Lawrence, Kansas City, Topeka area to Bill Self, to Travis Goff about Arterio Morris, and I've been disappointed with their answers. I mean, it's been very much like a lot of like he's been vetted, but like there's really no explanation about.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for you on that because that's always everybody's reaction. Trevor Bauer's situation needs to be a cautionary tale. If you haven't caught up on his situation, do it because it's really interesting. He's been vindicated, and I'm not saying that Arterio Morris will be or should be. I have no take on that. I'll let the legal system play itself out. But if you put yourself in their shoes, imagine, Tommy, that if he's not guilty here and they come out and bash his character in a space. I'm not
saying bash his character. I'm asking what the vetting process was. They've not been clear on what the vetting process was. All they've said is he was vetted. Okay, how? What does that mean?
They said they talked to him, his family, and people involved in the situation prior. That's what they've said. But they're not going to come out and say anything.
I certainly
with
don't want them to come out and bash his character. That's not what I mean at all.
Yeah, because they would get the pantsuit off of him potentially. Sure. So they're not going to do that. And in this whole thing, like they probably want to say things that they can't for legal reasons too. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to switch gears so we can get back to that in the second hour. Lot to talk about with Chelsea Messenger, mostly because we got the Chiefs on a Thursday night football game. We'll look at the rest of the betting world. Our betting insider joins us next on Sports Daily.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of Sports Daily. Thursdays mean our weekly visit with Chelsea Messenger, our pal, the host of the Daily Tip and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Chelsea, how are you today?
Hey, doing well. Best time of year. We've got postseason baseball. We have NFL. We have college football. Hockey's even started. And on the horizon, we have basketball season as well. So it's a great time to be a sports fan.
It is a great time to be a sports fan. It's a great time to be a Texas Rangers fan. That bet is getting close. So I have 3 different bets on it, Chelsea. 2 of them aren't being allowed to be cashed out at BetMGM, but I have another one on. I think it's FanDuel. They are letting me cash it out. I'm getting, as I'm talking about this with friends, they're like, oh, hedge, cash out that one, because they're offering me like, I don't know, 10-1 or something instead of 60-1. I don't know if the pride in me is going to let me do that, though. Where do you stand on that? Do I let this thing ride out? What should I do here?
I think you could do a soft hedge. Like, you don't necessarily have to cash out, but maybe put a little something on, say the Astros or whoever you think comes out of the National League.
Absolutely not. I will
Absolutely
not do that. No. Oh, my gosh.
But here's the thing.
Chance.
They've been to 7 straight ALCSs. There is a reason they are a staple in the postseason. So I know that your heart probably doesn't want you to, but, just put a few bucks, just in case. If something goes wrong, you will at least win some money and not be shaking your fist, empty fists that have no money in them as well.
Nothing will go wrong, and I will not be doing that. Oh, man. That is crazy. All right. In all seriousness, no, we get Thursday Night Football, which we always have fun with. And this time it involves the Chiefs, which we love. This is an interesting one. That's a big line, double digits, right? Short week, all those things. I don't remember the last time we got a Chiefs total as low as we're seeing here, which is kind of interesting too. What are your thoughts on this game as we head into the first NFL game of the week?
Yeah, I have no interest in laying 10.5, especially in a primetime divisional matchup. I know the Broncos are bad, but still, I feel like 10.5 is not a number I want to touch. But if you think it's going to be a blowout, I think there are other creative ways that maybe feel a little more safer to play. And I think you go to the props world. So if you look at game script, you look at the running back for whatever team you feel like is going to be winning in a blowout. So immediately I'm looking at Isaiah Pacheco, his rush prop set for 74.5. I think that's the way you go because number one, it sounds like there could be some weather issues in Kansas City tonight. Obviously, you guys are closer than I am, but it sounds like we might have some strong winds and the possibility for some rain that lends itself to the run game. And also the matchup presents itself well for any running back who's faced the Broncos this season. They're giving up 5.9 yards per carry. They've given up the most rushing yards of any defense in the NFL. And also, they've allowed 3 players to go over the century mark in individual rushing props. So I think that's the way to go for me. Isaiah Pacheco running the ball late in the game as well if you think the Chiefs want to wear down the clock. So Pacheco over 74.5 rush yards, I think, is the creative way to bank on a Chiefs blowout win.
I'll tell you, Chelsea, one prop that I like a lot in tonight's game is Russell Wilson over his passing yards. It's like 218.5 right now. And if this does end up being a blowout, the Broncos are more than likely going to have to throw the ball a lot. And really, even throughout the Broncos' struggles this season, it really hasn't been Russell Wilson's problem. He's been fairly good this season for the most part. So what do you think about that passing prop for him, his over and passing yards?
Yeah, I looked at this, and it seemed very low. He's gotten this, but in all but 2 games this season, and he's gone way over it in a couple of games, namely the blowout. Like, if you think it's going to be another blowout in that game against Miami, he threw for 306. And granted, that was way more of a blowout than we'll probably see tonight. I don't see the Chiefs posting a 70 spot. But still, I think you're on the mark with that as well because it goes into the game script. I know a lot of people love doing same game parlays. Make sure your game script is correlated. Like, that is the worst thing you can do for a same game parlay. So if you believe in the Chiefs, running away with this, I think this goes with the game script. You have the quarterback who's playing for the team that's behind, going over their passing prop, and then the running back for whatever team is winning, going over their rushing prop. So I like that. The only sabotage factor is I feel like I've seen somewhere where the Chiefs are liable to the run game. So maybe if you think they're giving up some rushing yards here, maybe the Broncos will attack that way. But I still think the Broncos will have to throw the ball in some regard to keep pace with this Chiefs offense.
Well, and Russell Wilson has not been the problem for Denver. He's actually been pretty good. The Chiefs' pass game has been a little behind. Even with that, Denver's so, and maybe I'm crazy here, and I feel this way about Chicago. And I think I've had some success here, like identifying bad defenses that have decent offenses and hammering those overs. I kind of like over 47 tonight. What would be, you'd have to get into a really big blowout for that to become irrelevant. And I think Denver can score a little bit at least, but I mean, if Denver can get to 17 points, you feel good. I don't know, but the over seems appealing to me tonight. Is it the concern that the game just may not be that competitive, or what would it be?
I think that, as well as the weather. And like I said, you guys probably are closer to this than I am. I think there are some concerns when it comes to the weather, but the other sabotage factor that I think people don't think about is that sometimes if you can have long drives that eat up the clock, that is what kills overs. And I think that is something that Kansas City is very capable of, dinking and dunking and just eating up the clock to where you all of a sudden have a drive that took like 5 or 6 minutes off the clock. Well, maybe not that long, but you get what I'm saying. So I think that's the sabotage factor when you're playing overs for Kansas City, because, you talked about overs being hot for the Broncos. It hasn't really been the case for the Chiefs thus far this season. We've seen some really low scoring games, at least, contrary to what I thought. I thought that Vikings game was going to go over the total. It didn't. 27-20 final score. So maybe that one's not a play I feel as solid on, but I would maybe lean towards the over. I will say it opened at 51 and it has since been bet down to 47.
Okay, so before we go to the weekend slate of games, I want to go back to baseball really quick. And, Jacob is a big Rangers fan, so he's sitting pretty, feeling good. I'm a huge Braves fan. It's not been good for me over the last couple of games. Game 4 is today. They've got Spencer Strider on the bump going against Ranger Suarez. Do the Braves have a chance? I mean, I know game 4, like with Strider, he didn't pitch great in game 1, but he is their ace. Number 1, do they have a good chance tonight? And number 2, do you think there's in any world where they can win the entire series?
Well, I think this is the guy that you want going in an elimination game. Nobody better than Spencer Strider, who I think has the best chance to maybe quiet the Philadelphia bats. They're underdogs here, I believe. Or no, they're big favorites. I think they're minus 150 today, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like even with Spencer Strider, they should not be minus 150. I think this price should be closer to like minus 120. I do feel like the value is on the Phillies just because their bullpen has been so good. If you have been watching these games, the Phillies bullpen guys all throw gas and have been incredible this postseason. ERA of 1.84 as a staff for this Phillies bullpen. So the X factor is, when are the Braves bats going to wake up? Because that's just been the problem all postseason long. It doesn't matter how good your pitching is if you can't, scratch across some runs. So they have Ranger Suarez going for the Phillies today. He's probably not going to go long in this game. Only went 3 2/3 in the first game of the series, but didn't give up a single run. And like I said, that Phillies bullpen's just been really tough. Also, this game is in Philadelphia. So it's not looking great for the Braves. There is a possibility because, they've been the best team in the regular season all season long. It's just one thing we've seen with these baseball playoffs is that momentum matters. Doesn't it feel like the teams that have gotten hot have just stayed red hot? Like, look at the Diamondbacks. They haven't lost a single game in the postseason.
Neither of the Rangers. I'm just going to throw that in there. But yeah, it's look, Tommy, just the best team of the regular season has to win 2 games in a row. Look, of course they have a chance. You guys will be all right. You'll be all right.
I'm down on it. I'm not feeling good.
The reverse, I do like the reverse jinx, so I don't disagree with your strategy there. All right, Chelsea, let's look to the weekend. We can start in the NFL. Favorite plays for this week as we get our first take on it. Really, we haven't spent a ton of time with it yet this week. So what are some of your favorite plays?
Yeah, starting off with a divisional dog here. I'm going to go Colts +4 against the Jags. Situationally, it's a tough spot for Jacksonville. Just spent 2 weeks overseas in London, and that's the time to play the Jags. Man, are they wagons when they're playing in London. But now back at home against a feisty Indianapolis team that's been really good as underdogs this season. 3 outright wins as underdogs, including last week with Gardner Minshew at the helm. When we are talking about backup quarterbacks, I feel like Gardner Minshew has to be one of the best ones in the NFL. So I don't feel like there's that much drop off between Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew. Yes, Anthony Richardson has a much higher ceiling, but still, the Colts getting 4 here. It opened at 4.5, has dropped down to 4. I think that's for good reason. This is a divisional matchup. These games usually play a lot closer than people expect. So I'll take the Colts getting the 4.
What else do you like this weekend, Chelsea? I know that we just talked about the game in London. I know that there are a couple of matchups here that are I'm on the fence about whether or not I want to throw down on the spreads. What do you like for this weekend?
There's one more total that I'm interested in. If you are interested in especially bad brands of football, the Raiders and the Patriots, total sitting at 41.5. Do we think both of these offenses are capable of putting up more than 20 points? I think not. I think both of these offenses are fully capable of absolutely looking terrible. I don't know if you've seen Mac Jones this year. It has not been pretty. And then you have Bill Belichick going against his old understudy of Josh McDaniels, who has not been good for the Raiders. Raiders also on a short week. Their offense ranks 31st in DVOA across the NFL. I will go with the under between the Patriots and the Raiders.
It's also a big college football weekend, Chelsea. Anything Saturday, we'll all have our sucker parlay bonuses and everything that we got to get out of our apps and stuff there. So what about college football? What do you like?
From a watching standpoint, we've got some really good games this week. Oregon, Washington looks like a good one out west. And I think if you are betting in the futures market, if you think you can pick the winner of that game, you need to bet on them to make it to the college football playoff. Because I think Washington and Oregon have kind of flown under the radar just because they do play out west, but two very solid teams. Washington, of course, headlined by Michael Penix Jr., Heisman candidate. But Oregon's been really good this year as well with Bo Nix at the helm at quarterback. I'm not sure if I want to pick a winner there. I think I would side towards the points, Oregon getting 3, just because I think that game's basically a coin flip, and you take the team who you feel like is getting the points in a coin flip. And then you look at USC and Notre Dame. This one, I can't quite decide, but I think I'm leaning towards USC just because the schedule has been incredibly difficult for Notre Dame. And I think we saw that last week. I didn't expect them to lose outright to Louisville, but they have played an absolute gauntlet of a schedule, even dating back to week 0. Because remember, they had to play overseas. First game of the season, I believe it was in Dublin. And then they played Ohio State. They've gone on the road to Duke, went on the road to Louisville, and now they get a top 10 team in USC. The quarterback I think I trust the most is Caleb Williams in this one. I think the best play, USC team total over 28.5, or their team total touchdowns over 3.5 for -120. That is the only thing you can count on for USC. Their offense being good, so that's what I'll do there.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. That's an interesting way to it because I struggle with USC. That's an interesting way to go about that. All right, Chelsea, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and let's do this again next week. We'll be a couple games into the book of the ALCS, and you can talk me off the ledge or help me celebrate.
Best of luck with your Rangers. I think everybody besides Astros fans will be rooting for the Rangers.
Yeah, we don't care about them. All right, Chelsea, thank you. That was the host of the Daily Tip and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, Chelsea Messenger. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Tommy and I will be back. We'll wrap up this hour, get you ready for a busy second hour as well. It's Sports Daily. Coming right.
Take it easy. We're going in the air.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back. As we wrap up hour number one, we want to jump over to the IHOP hotline. Frank has been patiently waiting with us. Frank, what's on your mind? Welcome into Sports Daily.
Hey, what's going on, Jacob? You would know me from a long time ago, but the thing is that I followed Chelsea on what used to be Twitter now as well, and just listened to the segment and everything. But I just posted a tidbit. I don't know if you know. Do you know what Sports Illustrated's Manager of the Year predictions were before the season started?
In Major League Baseball?
Yes, sir.
No. Did they have Boch?
They had Boch and they had Torey Lovello.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they missed on everything, but they had both of them as the Manager of the Year. And so
That's
I
wild.
just found it to be, I found it to be incredible. And I mean, as a former player and stuff like that, I love the fact I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, and looking forward to going down for the Philly game if we can get some stuff straightened out. But I'm looking forward to the Rangers. I went to college down in Southern Oklahoma, so you couldn't ask for a better ALCS. I mean, it's gonna be so amped up down in Texas. So, but
there might be a fight. Like, these two teams legitimately hate each other. Like, it is bad blood between them. Now, the former manager and everything has gone out of Texas when it got really heated, but man, they don't like each other, and the fans don't like each other. It's become a great rivalry now that.
And then, I mean, who doesn't hate the Astros? So, I mean, let's be real about it. So,
you are
best of luck
so
to the Rangers,
right in
and best
that,
of luck
Frank.
for you. All right, take care,
Thank you.
Jacob. Take care, y'all.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Frank. Yeah, you're right. Everybody join in. Nobody wants the Astros to win. If you do, you can keep to yourself, because we're all Rangers fans now, Tommy. Like, everybody join me. Here we go.
I don't dislike the Rangers. Don't get me wrong. I'm focused on other things. I'm focused on the
I
other
know
series
you got
right
another
now.
series. I got it. You're good. We'll recoup and we'll regroup and we'll be good, because that series doesn't start till Sunday. So the Braves can get on through here. And as a Rangers fan at this point, I kind of want the Braves in. I don't want Philly. I don't want any part of Zach Wheeler potentially down the road. Like, that dude's dealing right now. All right, we'll come back. Our buddy Tim Fitzgerald, K-State Insider, will begin to look ahead to the Cats this weekend as we roll forward on Sports Daily.
Sports, lighter news, and great comedy with Bob and Tom Mornings, 97.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily, hour number 2. We're gone a little longer than anticipated, but Max has got everything fixed back up. I'll ask Max here live because we've had that. Max, do we have Tim Fitzgerald yet? And if not, we'll get him connected. Yeah, Max is going to get us Tim, so he'll let us know when that's coming. Chance to catch our breath here a little bit. Tommy, real quick news item, and I don't know what to make of this. Apparently, the Broncos are restructuring and agreeing with Frank Clark to take a pay cut, which would allow him to be traded. That is, of course, of interest because we know his connection to Kansas City. And if he's taking a pay cut from what he already has, it's got to be close to the minimum, doesn't it, by this point?
Yeah, it's got to be close. And this is not the first pass rusher that the Broncos have moved away from in the last week or so. Randy Gregory, as we know, is no longer a Bronco. He was traded, and now it looks like they're looking to move away from Frank Clark. And Chris Jones was a guy that really lobbied to bring Frank Clark back to Kansas City this offseason. So I don't know if there's a reunion in store with Kansas City. And
maybe
Frank
the old
Clark,
locker room switch tonight.
Maybe so. I mean, that'd be interesting. Like right before a divisional prime.
We've seen that happen in baseball.
You've got Frank Clark going over to, back to the Arrowhead side.
We've seen that in baseball. I don't think we've ever seen that in football, but we can get to that later in the show. As promised, now joining us here on the program, Tim Fitzgerald jumps in for a weekly visit. Fitz, let me start here. You were ready to put Gundy in the dirt. Tommy and I have disagreed a little bit on Friday night. I thought that was Gundy sort of reminding us that he's still got something left in the tank. He's won 8 of the last 9 times he's been a home underdog, which, by the way, he'll be that again this week. Tommy, I think, leans more into K-State wasn't prepared. Where do you fall on that disaster Friday night?
I guess more towards Tommy. Not that Gundy didn't do a great job, but, I mean, if you look at the course of the game, if K-State just plays a little bit better, they win that game, even not playing well at all. And it really wasn't about K-State not playing well. It looked like K-State wasn't even invested in the game. They didn't seem interested in the game. They didn't seem engaged at all by the fact that they had this opportunity to win on the road. It was a strange game for Kansas State followers and fans to watch because it was so out of context. They couldn't understand what they were seeing from this lack of effort and, seemingly a lack of focus because there was so many times when players weren't on the same page. It was a strange night. And now everyone's left wondering, and I'm sure this is a question inside the Veneer football complex at Kansas State. Is this just a one-off, or is there something lingering here that would be greatly concerning to the K-State football nation?
Yeah, and I wonder, Tim, like if there's anything that you can attribute that to. I mean, I watched the game Friday night too, and there were a number of self-inflicted mistakes that the Wildcats had. And of course, Will Howard had a rough game, but, even beyond that, there was the play where, the center snapped the ball right past Will Howard on 4th down and just, some kind of shooting themselves in the foot situations. Is there anything that we can point to as a reason why that sort of thing happened, or was it just kind of an anomaly?
Yeah, I mean, the hope would be it's an anomaly. Can't speak. But no, it's like I said, it's just out of context. It doesn't. I think Chris Kleiman was as baffled as anyone, and this was his team. And he really got after him on Saturday in the team meetings following that Friday night game. It got after the players and the coaches that there's higher expectations in this. And it almost felt like Kansas State football, this team took something for granted it had no business taking for granted. You just don't, believe you're entitled to a win. Even if the team is down and struggling, you got to go in there and earn it. And they didn't. And now they put themselves in a bad position heading into an equally tough environment against maybe a better team on Saturday in what feels like a must-win situation, not to save the season, but to save your dignity.
Well, look, the reality, though, is, and I guess this is where you have to sort of put panic aside. The reality is, with one loss, right, getting to the Big 12 championship game is under their control, because if you feel like Texas, right, is going to win all the rest of their games, you've got a chance to beat them and put them at 2 and stay with. So like destiny is still controlled there. So like, how do you separate those two things, right? Like, it's not time to panic because we still can do what we want to do with those lingering concerns of, are we about to regress with Will Howard to the Will Howard of before last season? And it seems a little bit unfair to go there yet, but with Avery Johnson looming there, I think we have to be fair to that question after he plays a game like that. But I just don't. I'm having a hard time. Like, where should we stand right now?
Yeah, I think you guys are understanding exactly the kind of the confusion going on around K-State Nation right now. What's this mean? And because Oklahoma beat Texas, technically, I mean, they are still in charge. Kansas State still in charge of their own destiny. You just swapped out winning at Oklahoma State against a struggling team to winning at Texas, a national, playoff contender. It really changed the whole complexion of what is ahead of this Kansas State team. But all that doesn't matter. If anything in that locker room is being discussed other than winning at Texas Tech, we found the problem. And maybe they listened to too much of the outside noise. Maybe it was too much of people saying if they do this, this, and this, and they thought the same thing without doing the first bit. So it was a mental issue as much as a physical issue, and I feel like they can get it corrected, but they don't have time to mess around. They got to get it corrected before kicking off Saturday night at 6 in Lubbock.
So let's talk about getting it corrected. Texas Tech is a team that has not lived up to its expectations, certainly, but they're heating up, right? Wins against a not very good Houston, but a road win at Baylor. That loss to West Virginia looks better now than it did at one point. We've got to remember that Tech, took Oregon right to the literal last, possession of that game. Wyoming, who's probably pretty good, they took to overtime on the road. Texas Tech's probably closer to what we thought they'd be than not, Tim. But again, like, can you even worry about that right now? Because K-State should win it no matter what. Like, are we still there with K-State? Like, this is a game you go on the road and win, or is it that anymore?
Right. Everything you said, spot on. We thought Texas Tech was falling apart. Well, it turns out they played back-to-back really good football teams. We didn't understand the context of Wyoming at the time. Really good team. Oregon has turned out to be a really good team. And as we found out, West Virginia isn't the bottom cellar dweller of this conference as picked in the preseason. They're pretty good. At least they know how to win, which is such a big factor. But with all that said, you always kind of lean into Vegas. They really missed on the line at Stillwater, but they've got Texas Tech as a 1-point favorite in this game, 1.5-point favorite, which really doesn't even fully compensate for a home field. So, it's pretty much a toss-up game. And I think Vegas realizes that K-State is still a very capable football team until proven otherwise.
I agree. K-State, and it's an opportunity too, right? Like, you go back-to-back road games. K-State can go, they can go right this ship this week. That's the beauty of this game, I think, is you go and you win and you look good while winning. And now you kind of feel good about things again. Will Howard, Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
Why is it? We're going to ask the same question again as we've been asking. And it goes back to last week. It was even more amplified. Why is, after using Avery Johnson a little bit early in the year, do you think they've gone away from that? I can't quite figure it out. It can't be the red shirt. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in a game where Will Howard is so clearly struggling, why not at least give him a breather in Stillwater?
I agree. The thought was that the environment, the preparation, everything going wrong that needed to be corrected wasn't solvable with Avery. I think that's what their approach was.
Okay.
I think most of us back up and look at this and say, The only thing working for the K-State offense on Friday night in Stillwater was the quarterback run game. Why not put the young guy in who is an incredible athlete and adept at doing that, at least for a few possessions? At least give him a try like he did at Missouri. And as I said in one of my daily delivery videos, I think the oddity of this is I think the coaches look at what Avery did at Missouri as not successful, but the fans look at what he did at Missouri as successful and hopeful. It didn't work great with the quarterback run game, but it was more effective than a lot of the stuff K-State was doing, and they thought he should be done more at Missouri, allowed to do more at Missouri. And now to have him, set aside at Oklahoma State when the very thing that he does well might have worked extremely well, just baffles fans. But
that's the
said,
part of it. Go ahead.
Yeah. With that said, I think we'll see Avery on Saturday if there's a window open, because Tech gives up a lot of quarterback run game. If you don't see Avery at all, even if Will Howard plays well, I will find it curious, because Chris Kleiman has just said yesterday that the redshirt's really not part of the thinking here, and that further confuses the entire situation.
I do want to back up a little bit, because I look, there's a lot at stake. K-State's not just going to bench Will Howard outright for everything he's meant to the program and for what his expected role in this team being successful is. You don't bench that guy after what he's done after a bad game. So like that portion and section of the fan base, like if you're ready to do that, you better be ready to just mail it in on this season, because true freshmen are not, they're going to struggle a little bit, right? So K-State's still very much in the mindset that they want to win these games and make it to a Big 12 championship game. They're nowhere near that point, but I do think there's a happy medium, and it's sort of what you talked about there. Like it's okay to understand, like, no, I'm not ready to say Avery Johnson gives this team a chance right this second to be better than if Will Howard's the quarterback. I'm not ready to say that because I don't know that. But I do think it's time to at least see if he can add to the offense.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about putting your best athletes on the field. He's clearly one of the best athletes.
Right.
And if the red shirt isn't part of the bargain here or part of the equation, I don't get it. The number one goal, though, with this quarterback situation isn't to play Avery more, Will Howard less. It's to get Will Howard back to the guy that led you to a Big 12 championship. He has not been as good as he was last year. He admitted that at Tuesday's press conference, said, I've played okay this year, but I haven't played up to my expectations. But the worrisome thing is, I think we saw his confidence evaporate at Oklahoma State in a way that even Alabama didn't do last year at the Sugar Bowl. And you go back to the West Virginia game on the road a year ago, Will didn't play well, but he kept gathering himself and making plays. And he never lost that confidence. I think his confidence is dented, and that's one of the big things I want to be watching early in this game at Texas Tech.
What else? Because that's where all of our attention goes. The defense has got to step it up too, right? In Lubbock, And to be fair, we didn't know how good the defense would be coming in. They lost one of their best players and what they all call their lifeblood. Maybe we need to be more fair to it. But if K-State's going to do anything, they've got to be better defensively, holistically.
Well, they didn't give up much running yardage until Oklahoma State. And they gave up a 100-yard rusher. They gave up some key plays. And it's by far not all Austin Romaine's fault at middle linebacker. But, guys, the reality is you replaced a 6-year senior who's a big physical presence. And while fans might have complained he wasn't making as many tackles as what they thought, everyone was lined up in the right place doing the right thing when Daniel Green was on the field. When we just talked about a quarterback. You said it. When you put a true freshman on the field, there's a learning curve. And I think the learning curve showed itself a little bit at Oklahoma State. I don't think the defense has been as aggressive as it was with Daniel Green. Schematically, I think they backed off a little bit, and they need to get back to who they are and trust that the freshman and the veteran linebackers around him are going to make right decisions before the snap of the ball.
It's so crazy to me how much things change in a season. The K-State line is at 56.5 over under. That's right where Kansas's line is with Oklahoma State too. Kansas has really turned it around, and that becomes pretty compelling too. I know people are ready to start, trying to define like who's better, K-State or KU. I mean, KU's certainly playing better right now, despite no Jalen Daniels, but I do think that game should be amazing this year. Like it's going to be, don't you think, like talent to talent, it's as close this year as, I mean, when was the last time it was this close? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's going to be great. I hope they can get Jalen Daniels back. But, I mean, the reality is they can go to Stillwater and beat that Oklahoma State team with Jason Bean. He's a very good backup quarterback. They have to do a few things differently, but I think those things will, just like they did against UCF, I think they can win with those things. So it will be an interesting game. And you're right, that game down the road, seems like a year away, is going to be epic. If K-State keeps winning and Kansas keeps winning, that might include if, at the very maximum value of that game, if Kansas State can beat Texas, doubtful. If Oklahoma loses to Kansas, doubtful. That game all of a sudden becomes possibly a road to the Big 12 championship game for the winner. And it's crazy. We're this deep into the season, and that's really on the table.
Pipe dream, but we can hope for it on both sides. Love the idea of it. All right, Fitz, what do you guys have up at GoPowerCat.com for us this week?
Just trying to boil out what happened at Oklahoma State as best we can and move on to Texas Tech to offer our fans some insight into what's happening. Our pregame podcast went up this morning, as it does every Thursday morning at 12:01 a.m., and we'll have a Friday walkthrough. It's typical. Did a daily delivery today on the KU basketball, more like the NCAA situation, and just a lot of coverage of K-State and the Big 12.
All right. You can follow him on social media at Life of Fitz. Tim, really appreciate it. Enjoy the week, and hopefully things can get back on track here.
Thank you, boys. Great to talk to you.
There goes Tim Fitzgerald. You can go back and listen to any of that for free on the Odyssey app. You can do that at kfhradio.com. All right, we'll come back. We'll dig into a little Thursday night football here. Chiefs, Broncos. Here you go, Chiefs fans. You'll have it on the Chiefs Radio Network over on KNSS. You'll have the national call here on KFH. We got you all covered for it. We'll talk about it next. All right, welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here with you on the program today. We've got all kinds of good stuff happening in the sports world. Tommy's Braves trying to get back in this thing behind their ace and even up that series. The ALCS is set. You've got Rangers, Astros in what's going to be a really intense, wild series. I am glad nationally that some spotlight can get drawn onto just how big a rivalry that's become in baseball, and it'll be fun. We've got the Chiefs playing tonight. We appreciate everybody tuning in here on KFH. You can always do that. You can get in touch with us on the IHOP hotline, which is always a great place to get in touch with us on the show today. That's, of course, brought to you by IHOP, where guests can enjoy the new strawberry cheesecake waffle, golden brown Belgian waffle topped with creamy cheesecake mousse and fresh strawberries. You can also, my voice just cracked. You can also get in touch with us on our video streams. You can comment there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Austin comments on YouTube asking me directly if I like hockey and do I have a favorite NHL team. I do like hockey. I like hockey live a lot. I've always said if I ended up in if I moved to some city that like I already have an allegiance to, I could join on their hockey team because I don't have an allegiance to an NHL team. When I was a kid, I loved the Maple Leafs for whatever reason. I think it's because I played video games and they had like players that I liked on the video game. When they went on strike, I sort of fell out with the NHL, not because of like any fundamental reason. I was very young. It just like it was like, okay, well, they're not playing anymore. And then the Stars were good for a little bit, and I just sort of rooted for them. I didn't really. No, the short answer to my long-winded answer there is I do not have a favorite NHL team. I pretend sometimes like I like the Maple Leafs and the Stars, but that's not real. Like I don't follow any team specifically. I love live hockey though. To answer your question there, Austin.
It's a lot of fun. I'm a live hockey fan also, of course. That's my day job.
Right.
I didn't realize how much fun live hockey was until I started working in that world day in and day out. And I'm not sure you can find a more like fast-paced, action-packed sporting event than live hockey.
It is built to be live, and I love it, and I get why fans are so into it. And I enjoy watching it on television also, by the way. I just don't have time as much to like follow the NHL closely. And that's not a knock on the NHL. I don't have as much time to follow the NBA as closely as I once did in my life. You know, you have to, I'm going to watch football all the time. I'm going to watch the Rangers/Royals if, you know, when they're competitive and relevant. And then I've become such a big college basketball junkie since I've moved here that it's sort of shifted some things around too. So I appreciate the question. You guys can always leave us questions on our video streams, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. You can also reach out to us on X, Twitter. All right, Tommy, Thursday night football. Here we go. Look, I think the Chiefs need to get a big lead and run the ball. I mean, I think that pretty much is what it comes down to. You know, I think that's where this game heads for me for success for the Chiefs. I would love to see them throw the ball around, but if we're game planning this game, I don't know that that's the way I would game plan it.
I go back and forth on this a lot because as much as we need to see the offense, especially the passing offense, come to life in a game like this against a Broncos defense that is not very good, I do think, and I agree with you, that, you know, the path to a comfortable victory is an effective game on the ground and controlling the ball and all of that. So, I mean, I go back and forth. Like, we need to see the passing game step up, need to see the wide receivers, you know, come to life a little bit. And that may very well be the way that they come out and play. I mentioned it yesterday, getting out to a really big lead early and then being able to, you know, maybe rest Travis Kelce late in the game. That's going to be ideal. I don't know how likely it is, but it certainly will be ideal. And, you know, just being able to have more confidence in what they're doing offensively at the end of the game. I want to be able to look back on the game tonight and say, okay, like that was kind of like the Bears game, kind of a get right game offensively for Kansas City. That's why I'm looking at, you know, wanting them. I feel like, you know, if they can put on, you know, 28, 31, 34 points in the game, you probably feel pretty solid about where that offense stands after the game.
Yeah, I've got what I'm having a hard time doing with the Chiefs this year is setting expectations for the offense. And I don't say that to say like I'm worried. I'm not quite worried yet, but like the defense is better. And so my expectations for the Chiefs as a whole don't need to change. I still think the expectation is to win a Super Bowl. But I do think the expectation of what that looks like is what I'm having a hard time with. Like this could very well be a team that plays good defense, runs the ball effectively, and, you know, throws the ball more precisely. And, you know, it basically throws the ball to support those two things, right? You let your defense and your running game control the pace of the game, and your passing game supplement it.
But it goes back to what you and I have discussed, and you've been more concerned about it than I have early in the season, is that running game holding up, specifically Isaiah Pacheco, and how healthy he can remain with the way that he runs the football. I'll tell you one thing right now. If this is another game tonight against a bad Broncos defense where the wide receivers have a hard time getting going, and if Patrick Mahomes looks a tick off, with their wide receivers and they're not really on the same page, I think that moves the Chiefs closer and closer to trying to make something happen before the trade deadline. We saw Van Jefferson get traded from the Rams to the Falcons earlier this week. I'm not suggesting that McCole Hardman is the answer because he probably isn't, but it sounds like the Jets want to move him. There are wide receivers that potentially could be on the market. And you know what, honestly, and I want to point this out, the Broncos, who the Chiefs play tonight, they've moved Randy Gregory. Looks like they want to move Frank Clark. I've heard rumblings about Jerry Jeudy on the move. They may be looking to kind of blow things up a little bit if things don't turn around for them. I don't know if they would trade Jerry Jeudy within the division. Probably not. But I'm telling you right now, if there's a bad Jeudy, if there's another bad outing from the Chiefs wide receivers side, especially at the very top of the wide receiver depth chart, that's going to I think it's going to push the Chiefs closer to making a move by the trade deadline.
I was a big advocate for the Chiefs to add a vet in the offseason. You know that. I was bigger advocate for them to add another running back. I think you can add a running back now, and they probably should still look into that. The issue that I have with adding a receiver now versus adding one this offseason is, to me, it's not a talent thing, because I think that we've seen Kadarius Toney be talented, right? If he's available, Rashee Rice and Sky Moore, I don't want to say they're not talented. The issue has been the cohesiveness with Mahomes right now. And so bringing in another receiver now, I'm not sure. And maybe it helps by the time the games, get really important in the postseason. Maybe you can make the move to justify it being a contributor down the road. But if the issue, and it does appear to be to me, just getting in sync with Mahomes, bringing somebody in now, you're going to have the same issue, right? Like, that doesn't immediately solve the issue. So that's where we look at a game like this, and it's like, okay, you've had, what are we entering? Week 6, right? If week 6 isn't enough time for this group to get in sync, is there enough time to get a group in sync? That's what I don't know. I would contend there's almost more urgency to add another running back than there is to add a receiver for that reason. I don't know if they can bring somebody in that's going to just be able to step in and solve things. I don't think they can.
But even if you add another running back, I mean, who's available? Who's there? I know we talked about the couple guys on the practice squad, but who is there that we feel confident in that the Chiefs could sign as a veteran or otherwise to make an impact, even as in a backup role?
I think you watch the Colts, and if they're able to maintain with Gardner Minshew, that's one thing. But if not, would they look to move Zach Moss? I just, like, off the top of my head, I mean, there are guys out there that are good backup running backs. The Bills,
Leonard Fournette hasn't gotten a job so far this season. He's out there.
There's got to be a reason for that, but is Leonard Fournette better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I think is the question you have to ask. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the kind of player that would be handy, though, right? There's a big, just if you can get us 4 yards a carry, which is sort of like that baseline average in the NFL. Like, if you can just get us that and help us save the legs of Isaiah Pacheco and save, the contact that he's going to have to take for when we've got to have him. If the Chiefs can figure out a way to keep Isaiah Pacheco at, like, I don't know, Tommy, 15 carries or under, you just sort of roll the dice there. Like, you're like, okay, but if they get into this and they're like, okay, we got to need, and they're going to, like, they need Pacheco to run it 20 times a game, that's where I think we become concerned. And you're always up in the air at running back anyway. I don't know, but I think that they should be exploring those options, because the one thing we know about, the receivers can't just step in like that most of the time. Like, if they went and found, I don't know, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe they could, but running backs can do that historically in the NFL. Like, you in theory at running back can just step right in there and get after it. And so, and it's not like they're not looking for a lead back in the backfield. They're literally looking for someone to help limit the carries of Isaiah Pacheco in week 6 so that they don't have to do that in week 16. So I don't know. They could solve all of that if they just come out and throw the ball around a little more effectively tonight. Travis Kelce's going to be a big part of that. He'll play. If you were worried about his ankle, well, as Austin points out, and I just looked, Taylor Swift's going to be at the game. So if you had any concern about Travis Kelce and his ability to play on that ankle, best news that could ever happen for you is that Taylor Swift's going to be at that game. He's got to show up for his girl, right? Like he's got to play big for his girl, and he's got to act tough. You got to be. You can't let a little ankle injury hold you down when you got your girl up in the stands. Like you got to play through that.
I was thinking about the games that Taylor Swift has been at, and she was at the game against the Bears. That was on Fox. So you had the lead Fox broadcasters talking about it. Then on NBC and Sunday Night Football. So you had Tirico and Collinsworth. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, I can't wait for Al Michaels to be on the call with Taylor Swift in the building. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
He's going to hate it so much. He's going to hate it so much. It's going to be awesome. Conspiracy theorists would tell you, the timing of these primetime games is perfect. I'm not quite there on a conspiracy theory, but,
I think, doesn't her new movie open today? I think that's part of it. Like the concert movie deal, it's in theaters starting today. So, I mean, come on. Like these people are very, very
But the
conniving.
flip side of that is she wouldn't also want to directly compete with that movie opening either, although I'm sure it's sold everything out already. But
could promote it though while
heck
you're
of
there.
a spot for her. Oh, she'll buy an ad. I mean, I can guarantee you will see an ad for the Taylor Swift movie tonight in this broadcast. There is no question. And if it is that, understand how well Travis Kelce is doing in this too. Like, don't think this is all one-sided. Like, he's become the most, I think, famous and popular NFL player by, following on social media. And he's got a podcast that happens to be the top one. So good for him too. But again, if we're having fun with this, he ain't going to be hobbled in front of his girl. Travis Kelce, book it. Travis Kelce scoring a touchdown tonight. Come on now. It's happening. It's going to happen. All right. Mike's tired of hearing about it. Hey, I will say this, Mike. We ended our Chiefs conversation with Taylor Swift, right? In the beginning of this, when we were all having fun with it, we were going at the beginning to have fun. Now it's it has become secondary, and not to the networks. They love this, but I think for most of us, it's just a thing now, and nobody really. I don't love it or hate it anymore, Tommy. It's just it's fine. It doesn't. I don't sit in my chair and get angry when they show a shot of Taylor Swift. Why are we doing that? Who cares? It's fine.
Look, I'd rather spend our time talking about Taylor Swift than Jackson Mahomes. So then it's an upgrade for me. Let's talk about Taylor Swift all day long. If I don't have to talk about Jackson
or Arterio Morris or
exactly,
it is okay to have fun. Everybody, it's okay. It'll be all right. Earl, oh man, you know what? Earl is on the line. Earl, we have not had your thoughts on that situation, and I don't know if that's why you're calling, but the Chiefs do play a big one tonight. What's up, Earl? Welcome in. Good to hear from you.
Well, just a couple of things. First, I'm a little Rush fan, so the music that's produced by Travis's Squeeze, just not my thing. So, I have relative interest, if none, in that. I just got to remind you guys, as you talk to the betting guru and all that, you're underestimating the Kansas weather at a north wind at 40 miles an hour.
Windy, man. I know. I'm not betting the over because of the wind, but ugh.
And if you've ever sat in that stadium, even a guy who throws a ball with starch, I've watched Elway's balls move 15 yards when the wind's going to blow like it did tonight. And Russell Wilson's best attribute is the long ball. He loves to throw that sucker out and have him run. That will not be effective at all tonight. So if you're expecting tonight to be the coming out party for these receivers and stuff, that ball's going to be moving. Patrick's going to be throwing knuckleballs. Russell's going to be throwing ephes balls. It is a run-heavy game, and the wind will have a huge factor in tonight's game. But you know what? Sure as, crap comes from a goose, the Chiefs are going to prevail tonight. We're going to get 16 in a row against those guys. And I hate to do this to you, man, but the Astros,
Hey, whoa. Earl, I don't even want to hear what you were just about to say. I have no interest in that. That is not necessary. We don't need to get into any of that. What are you, some Astros fan, Earl? What's?
No. See, you cut me off with my ironic take to you. And it was going to be the S's pretty good in the postseason, but you know what? The upstart Royals took them down a couple times back in the day. So, you know, you should have some hope there is what I was going to get to before, you know, you got to relax a little bit, man. You got to enjoy the ride a little bit more. You know, don't get started, relax. You got to relax, let it come to you, and realize wear all the clothing that you always wore when they won because, you know, you're going to control the outcome. So, keep on tonight.
I have to be careful. We appreciate it. Earl brings up a good point. Let's hit on this real quick, Tommy. I always love hearing from Earl. The win tonight. So the forecast right now doesn't show a slowing of winds, steady winds of between 15 and 20, which probably means gusts will get a little bit higher. That favors the Chiefs. And when we talk, and it favors them not just because of the run game. Of course it does. The Broncos can run the ball too. Especially, I think Javonte Williams looked pretty good, and they've got a couple of guys. But the Chiefs' pass game is short to intermediate, right? Like that, no matter what the receivers do, I don't think all of a sudden this becomes a downfield offense. It's not going to do that. It can get better, though, like it was last year at short to intermediate. So that's another advantage to the Chiefs tonight for sure. But it is a good point as we're talking this, and Chelsea warned us about this, the weather on overs and things like that. I don't know how to approach this game. Maybe I just go Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. I think I might have taken the overs in one of the late night, just like get the bonuses used up bets, and I can't change that now. So I'll just have, but the Travis Kelce anytime touchdown bet may be the way to go. He's scoring a touchdown for his girl. Like he's gonna score a touchdown.
I still really like the Russell Wilson over in passing yards. I know that it's going to be windy. I know he likes to throw it downfield. 218 yards that's not impossible for him to get in tonight's game. And
sure it's not.
if the Broncos are playing from behind, which I kind of suspect they will be, he's going to have to chuck it all around despite the wind. So
what about
I still like that bet.
What about his attempts? What was the number 218?
Yeah.
He's been just this year, he would be 3-2 against that number. With the game against the Bears, he only got over by 5 yards. So I wonder what his attempts are, because like if we look at his attempts, those have been 30 plus every game, all but that Bears game when he threw it 28 times. I don't know. That's a wind driven number. There's no question that's a wind driven number.
Right now his pass attempt, the line on that is 32.5. As far as passing attempts.
If you think they're going to get way down, he's only been 30. He'd be 3-2 against that. No, he'd be 2-3. He's been at 32 and at 31. That's tough. But if you think they're going to get behind, maybe that's the way. I don't know. This may be the most difficult. Like I don't have a good read on any of the betting. I'll probably just go Kelce touchdown. I think that's what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll even do first touchdown to beef that up a little bit. But Chiefs Broncos tonight, you can hear it. Now on the national call right here on KFH, and of course the Chiefs Radio Network will have the local coverage over on KNSS. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll have more Sports Daily right after this.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Keep your water heater heating up your faucet from leak and just call up the pros at David Lease Plumbing.
Fall is coming and winter won't be far behind. The changing of the seasons always have adverse effects on water heaters. Call David Lease Plumbing at 945-0117 when you need your water heater serviced or replaced. Call before you have a water heater emergency at 945-0117.
Let David Lease Plumbing give your plumbing a new lease on life.
Where can you get the best pizza, pasta, hoagies, and salads? Pizza John's in Derby. Since 1969, families have been dining at Pizza John's. Stop in at 208 South Baltimore Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. or order online. Pizza John's, purveyors of round meals and flat snacks.
Hi, this is Delana at Truck Stop. As summer winds down and autumn creeps in, you know that you can expect to see deer. Make sure you can see them and anything else in your path with lights from Baja Design, Vision X, Oracle, or Casey Highlights. You can also protect the front of your truck or SUV with heavy-duty American-made bumpers or grill guards from vendors like Outdoors, Ranch Hand, Weston, and others. Support your neighbors by shopping the options and getting our professional recommendations right here in Wichita. It's deer season at Truck Stop at the corner of Central and Washington.
Tricked out, decked out, check us out, Truck Stuff.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian cuisines, they head to P.F. Chang's, where scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition of wok cooking. P.F. Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website. They turned to AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com re-architected P.F. Chang's website, integrating multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. The results? Improved page speed and performance, personalized content based on users' location, intuitive online ordering, an increase in organic search visibility, and a 40% increase in new users. For scratch-made Asian cuisine, visit your local P.F. Chang's or go to pfchangs.com for website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting that produce efficiency, revenue, and results. Visit AmericanEagle.com. P.F. Chang's and AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses in the world, turning to the best in the business for websites. Go to AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW1. That's 877-WEB-NOW1.
The choices we make affect the moments we live. That's why who you choose for health insurance doesn't really matter until you really need it. With Medicare Advantage from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, you'll know that no matter which moment you choose, we've got you covered on and off the pickleball court. So the moment there's an ouch or whoopsie, we'll be there with a wow and whenever you need us. With more coverage options than ever and more reasons to love your plan, like premiums starting at $0, dental, vision, and hearing coverage, and an allowance toward approved over-the-counter items, the choice is simple. Medicare Advantage from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas. Call 888-565-4199 or visit bcbsks.com/enroll now. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas offers Medicare Advantage PPO plans. Enrollment dependent on contract renewal. Not connected with or endorsed by the U.S. government or the federal Medicare program.
I'm Ben Winters. I'm not an actor. I'm an attorney. Really. If you've been hurt in a wreck, don't make the mistake of assuming insurance companies are on your side. They're not. That's why you need the best representation in Wichita. And according to the Wichita Eagle, Patterson Legal Group is the best law firm in town. We've recovered hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients. In a wreck, need a check? Call us today.
Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
Attention Wichita, the wait is over. Friday night, October 13th, 7 to 10:30 p.m. The Wichita Ice Center is back and cooler than ever. Special reopening offers in a cool atmosphere await you. The ice is calling. For more info, visit wichitaicecenter.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
It's time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Dodgers go down last night, Tommy. Boy, the Dodgers and the Orioles, just that's tough. That's really tough. The Twins go down, so the Astros sort of buck the trend of like all the teams that got a bye and everything, and the Braves are still certainly very much in this series against the Phillies. They get their ace on the mound, and then look, if they can win tonight, I think that, you know, back at home, you like the puncher's chance there. I assume it would be against Zach Wheeler, but you know, like
they'll throw Zach Wheeler in Game 5.
They get to throw their ace on the mound tonight in a Game 4. I mean, that's what it's all about.
The Phillies clearly have all the momentum, and then there was Of course, you get into postseason baseball and it's a divisional matchup. I know it's going to be heated with the Rangers and Astros, but it's heated with the Braves and the Phillies too. They don't particularly like each other a whole lot, and there was some drama with some comments that were made by Orlando Arcia in the Braves clubhouse after Game 2, and then Bryce Harper heard about it, took it to heart, stared down Arcia after the home runs he hit last night. There's some bad blood a little bit between these two teams, but Philadelphia, they've got the momentum at home tonight. I know the Braves are throwing Strider. It's going to be a tough matchup.
They got to. I like them tonight. I'll say that. I like them tonight. We'll see if they can get there. All right, we're going to come back. We'll tell you what's on tap. It is a busy day on the networks with the Chiefs playing tonight. We'll get into all of that and let you know where you can find it next on Sports Daily. All right. That's a jam-packed Thursday, everybody. Glad to do it. Good luck, everybody, with your bets tonight. Tommy, good luck to your Braves. Chiefs fans, good luck against the Broncos and the streaks out there. And I guess good luck to the Swifties, too, that you get, a couple of shots of your girl up there in the stands. For Max Power, Tommy Castor, I'm Jacob Albracht. By the way, on the Chiefs tonight, again, national call right here on KFH. You'll hear that. And you'll hear the Chiefs Radio Network call over on KNSS. Mitch Holthus and gang and friend of the program, Dan Israel, will be a part of that. So lots of different ways to take it in. We'll see you tomorrow.